We've all seen it at this point. A scene in some show or movie where the visuals change drastically to show us one of the character's emotions or mental states. A few popular examples would be Puss in Boots' The Last Wish's panic attack scene, where everything is darker and scarier to put us in Puss's shoes, or the Owl House's grandiose animation in the finale to show the stakes of the situation loses in. But what we don't see as often is a piece of media completely changing its style to portray a certain perspective. This is where pieces like Kung Fu Panda 2 and Gachiakuta stand out, as they both have an instance, or multiple instances, but they allow the art style to be completely broken for the sake of emotional resonance with the audience. Going forward, we will be discussing both of these pieces of media, so if you haven't watched them, skedaddle until you have. I will also talk about the manga of Gachiakuta a little, but I'll give you a warning to skip ahead, so don't worry too much. Kung Fu Panda 2 is up there among some of my favorite films, and the way that it portrays characters' past and insecurities due to that past is a large part of why. I would say Poe instead of characters, but the movie doesn't only put this storytelling device to use on him, it also uses it on his adversary. Shen is introduced as a lonely and resentful man, with the marks on his feathers being a symbol of fear for many. We see this in the very beginning of the film, where we first differ from the movie's average art style. We see as he slaughters the pandas, leaving Poe alone in the world, just like him, out of fear for his own downfall. Here, his emotions are shown through harsh reds, and his vision of himself is built up in these beautiful shadow puppet-esque visuals. But it didn't start this way. The colors began hopeful, but his anger and spite overcame them. This seals his fate and intertwines it with Poe, who will eventually turn that mark that scared and scarred him into a symbol of Shen's inevitable downfall at his hands. When Poe sees the mark in the movie, he sees it the same way we do, both literally and symbolically. At first, it just flashes at him, and he's unsure of what it means, but over time he grows to see it as a symbol of what was taken from him, as it takes a more solid shape of ideals when he sees it on Shen. It's a symbol of the anger and insecurity that Shen hosts, and the anger and insecurity that we see growing within Poe. Now, I know it seems like I'm yapping about symbols a little bit, so I'll bring it back around. By the time that they're on their way to Gongmen City, Poe's being haunted by the visual of the mark from the beginning of the movie. In his dream, we see his parents, who he's recently realized are not his goose dad, and the insecurity begins to really creep in here. The dreams are already a completely different style, so that the viewer is able to easily track that this isn't Poe's head, as it shares a similar style to the dream sequence from the first movie. But in what has so far been a place where we have seen Poe be comfortable and happy, represented by warm, vibrant yellows, greens, and browns, it gets interrupted by this little red radish. This radish is Poe's insecurities, sneaking into even his most comfortable places and fleshing it out with harsh reds, blinding whites, and the symbol, just like we saw in the opening. The one place where we've consistently seen Poe be safe, his dreams, have now also been invaded by the lingering effects of his past, symbolized by not only Shen's literal symbol, but the colors associated with it as well. This comes to a head after Poe confronts Shen twice, and is frozen in place by the symbols both times, rendering him defenseless and allowing Shen to get away or advance his plots. Poe knows that something has to change, but he needs the help of the soothsayer, who you could argue sort of set Shen on this path, and Shifu's teachings of inner peace to help quell his mind. Poe is unable to do it without skills that he learned from others who have helped him to get where he is, which I really love, as that's more often than not the case when dealing with trauma. When we see the opening scene again from Poe's perspective, it's once again sharing the dream style that we saw earlier. When we left, it was becoming overrun with the color scheme from Shen's backstory. Now it's back to its vibrant greens and warm atmosphere, though it doesn't last long. The style choice here communicates just how long ago it was for Poe. It's one of those memories that feels like a dream because it's so hard to remember, but it's still there. He doesn't see much, but the things that he does see are enough to reasonably believe you know what happened. Among what he saw was Shen and his soldiers. The soldiers, I would argue, looked pretty average in the original scene and how we've seen them up until now, but here they're shadowed, obscured, and are drawn with a lot of sharp edges like Shen himself is usually represented. They're frightening, especially with the shaky, rapid shots and overwhelming soundtrack. As they chase after Poe and his mother, the tranquil browns and whites of the forest get overtaken by the reds of the pursuing army, showing their domineering force. When they're able to break away for a moment, Poe's mother hides him once again in the comfortable tones of a brown and green radish box, and kisses him on the head to at least have her last moments with him be warm and comfortable and filled with joy again, represented by the warm yellow hue cast over her until she disappears off screen. The dream sequences in this movie show the progression of Poe's mental state as Shen gets further underneath his skin and insecurity takes root, represented by the changing color scheme inside of this view in Poe's mind, as well as setting up the villain as a tangible threat, while also showing that he is a man who wants to be loved, which our main character can relate to, as seen in the first movie. While Kung Fu Panda 2 uses its change of art style to show the character's progression in the current time of the story and how they process things from the past, Gachiakuta uses it to show how a character copes with something from the past and pretends that it's something it isn't. Amo is a tragic character, sold off by her mother to someone that we only come to know as Mr. when she was still only a kid, by the looks of it, somewhere around 6 or 7 years old. Mr. is a trafficker, and takes Amo far away to a tower in the desert no man's land known as Penta, where he does disgusting things to her. In Amo's eyes, she believes the wretched feeling in her stomach from what he does is love, because Mr. told her that it was, and she's been taught to trust the adults in her life blindly, even if it ended up getting her hurt. She'll do anything to ignore how bad it feels, and this is what we see through her flashback. Amo's mind is represented in a childlike, scribbly style. Even though it's childlike, there's something somewhat disturbing about it, likely due to the implication that even though she's around 17 by the time we meet her, she hasn't been able to move on from what he did. Every time that he hurts her more, these pink flowers start showing up in the background. She's moving into her mind, compartmentalizing, and trying to ignore the real reason that she's feeling the way she does. Love is easier to cope with. This isn't the only way that it's represented, with it also receiving support from these flashes of scribbling riding towards the ending of her flashback, also showing us her thought process. Whenever reality does come crawling back in, she writes it off. She can't handle anything bad happening because that's what the adults in her life have trained her to do at this point. Why did Mama introduce Amo to Mr.? Because she sold you. Oh, no, it's not like that. Amo sees now. She did it so Amo could be loved. She has to believe that people have the best intentions for her. And now, because of all those times, she's stuck in this childlike mindset where she has to get everything that she wants. Everyone has to like her, and no one gets to tell her no or she'll hurt them. Because that's all that people have done to her. Except, she isn't really. With Rudo's help, together they're going to learn to help others by reaching out their hands. All it takes is one step. Someone just needed to take one step out towards her to help, and Rudo did. I would also like to tack on a smaller example that has come up more recently in the manga, so if you haven't read it, skip to the time listed. During chapter 162, we get to see inside of Memo's head. I am not sure how to say his name. Sort of similar to what I talked about with the other characters, except for him it's two versions of him as opposed to any sort of ideal or experience that they're trying to run from. Though you could argue he's running from obscurity. I don't think there's enough for me to really make a whole segment on it, but I just wanted to note it because I really like the visual representation of him slowly breaking down as he's trying to make himself into a god, and the two sides of him talking to each other is just pretty cool. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I've been keeping up with the Gachiakuta manga, so it's filling up my head a little bit right now. I'm thinking of maybe making a video about Rudo, as he's my favorite character from the series so far, and talking a little bit about why I like him so much. But I'm still working on reviewing My Hero and writing the script up for that, so I can get at least part 1 out for now, but it's not like I haven't been whipping up script while working on that one anyways. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you decide to tune in again, thank you, and you'll see me in the next video. Bye guys.